Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Well, the year has gone by quite quickly because I remember when Rick Beato announced to the world that a kind of sort of King Crimson reunion would be happening, one focusing on their music from the 80s period when the albums Discipline Beat and Three of a Perfect Pair were all over the progressive rock charts, which doesn't exist, but they were certainly all over the progressive rock sections of music stores. And it was a very unique lineup because of all of the King Crimson lineups, it was the most different from that which came before. If previous King Crimson incarnations sort of evolved from one another, this was sort of a clean break, and you can imagine why, because quite a few years passed between the mid 70s. I think it was late 74 or 75 when Fripp broke up King Crimson after the Red album. He thought the world was going to end because of the philosophies of a man called J.G. Bennett, who he studied under, and he thought that this would happen in 1981. But when 1981 came along and the world didn't come to an end unless you were a big supporter of Jimmy Carter, he decided to get the old band back together. Only it was kind of a new band, only with Bill Bruford being retained from the previous King Crimson lineup. They were originally going to call it Discipline, but for various reasons, commercial and otherwise, they went with King Crimson. Now, this lineup, of course, Robert Fripp, because Robert Fripp is King Crimson. Bill Bruford, as I said, was back. But then there were two new faces, and they were from the US, where previous lineups were pretty much all UK centric. And these were familiar faces for those who listened to Frank Zappa, because Adrian Belew had played guitar for Frank Zappa, features famously in the film Baby Snakes. Great performances there. And of course, Tony Levin, a bass player and stick player who's done every session on Earth, but would have been well known by then for playing a lot with Peter Gabriel. And they came out with Discipline, and it was a very different kind of sound, but it was quintessential King Crimson in the sense that it was always Robert Fripp moving forward and doing something different. Now, this lineup wasn't really featured prominently in the more recent King Crimson reunion tours, in the sense that Adrian Belew, who fronted this lineup, if you will, was excluded from recent King Crimson tours, and he wasn't really happy about that because the recent King Crimson tours that happened between the 2010s and I think sort of COVID ended that, but I think it may have well have been over before that anyway. These were sort of kitchen sink tours with a few sprinklings of almost every King Crimson lineup. But Belew felt that he should have been included in a huge lineup that included three drummers, but he wasn't. But now he's making up for it because he's doing this tour, and Robert Fripp, who's pretty much retired from King Crimson, although he does those videos with his wife. But he's not going out on the road anymore. So you've got Steve Vai playing the Robert Fripp parts, but he's standing up. He's doing it his way. And then on drums, you've got Danny Carey from Tool, who's playing very faithful recreations of what Bill Bruford was playing. And he's even using a lot of the percussion instruments in addition to a regular drum set and some modern drum pads simulating the sounds of the Simmons drums that Bruford was using a lot in the 80s version of King Crimson. And they're doing just a very authentic type of thing. And because Belew was the lead vocalist then as now, and his voice pretty much sounds the same, it sounds really good. I've been watching the videos. The tour has only just started, and let's see where it's going. So it began in San Jose, California, in September, and it's going through till the 12th, oh, sorry, the 18th of December in Highland, California. So, you know, what goes around comes around. So it's a US tour, the typical North American tour route, and it should continue to be really good because, you know, some bands, especially when they're in the sort of senior citizen category, they tend to almost have to warm themselves up on the road, and the last gig is because of that usually better than the first. But for these guys, because they're such virtuosos and such pros, many of whom have session recordings, Steve Vai, his Zappa connection, Baloo Zappa's connection, Tony Levin played with everyone, Tool, a very disciplined band. They come from discipline. They come from backgrounds where they're sort of ready to go. They don't really need to warm up on the road. And the video that we've seen, the videos that we've been seeing from the tour really bear that out. So if you like that lineup of King Crimson, this is as good as it gets. It's a bit like what Sammy Hagar did in Van Halen, in the sense as you've got two of the original guys, but it's done with the blessing of Robert Fripp and I believe Bill Bruford also. So it's pretty much as close to the real deal, and they're all really good musicians. So far from just being on the jukebox circuit, they're really giving audiences who love this music a chance to hear it performed authentically and in as original way as possible. So I say, well done. By introducing the tour on Rick Beato, you know that it's going to be a tour by and for music lovers and musicians, and that's certainly what it has been so far. Like, subscribe. We will see you next time. Take care.